Hello, my name is Jeff Martin. I'm Executive Director of True Dungeon. This is our 15th year of True Dungeon here at Gen Con, and to celebrate we decided to pull out all the stops. So we've really upped the complexity of the sets and props. Normally we bring about 3 trailer loads full of material, but this year we've upped it to 5. For the first time this year we've constructed a lot of wooden theatrical sets with the full theatrical lighting and sound, so we're able to transport people like into a medieval village or a medieval temple much more than we could in the past. Yeah, our 15th year is really special because we get to share it with a well-known author, Patrick Rothfuss. He's the author of 2 well-known books, and everybody's really waiting on the 3rd. He's a True Dungeon fan who's played for several years, and a few years ago he got in contact with me and said, hey, let's do something together sometime. And the way our multi-year story arc worked out, this year was the year to do it. And so our players are being transported to his world where they get to do their adventures there on their quest to find this evil mind flayer.
My name's Patrick Rothfuss, and I write fantasy novels, do storytelling consulting, game design, I run a charity, kind of a big mixed bag of things.
I first met Patrick Rothfuss probably 4 or 5 years ago when he did a charity run with a bunch of other famous authors. And after the end of his adventure, he came over and told me how much of a great time he had, and I really appreciated that. And then later on the next day when we were tearing down, he came by and talked to all the volunteers and again said how much he appreciated what we did. I thought that was a really classy thing to do. And then over the next several years, he's played every year since, and he's always stopped by on Sunday to give us a pep talk. One time he came by on Wednesday during the volunteer meeting to give another pep talk. And so he's a real big fan of the event, and he's helped promote it as well.
I ran into people that had played True Dungeon years and years ago, and it always sounded really cool, but I'm not a great advanced planner, so all of the tickets were always sold out. But I'd heard about it, and then I can't remember exactly how I got to know Jeff himself. It could be that I swung by or he dropped me an email. Maybe we even touched base through Dwarven Forge because he did work with them. You know, I think the first time I actually met him, I did a True Dungeon run, but I was riding on Will Wheaton's coattails. I came in on one of his runs. It was the first time I'd played. That was probably the first time I met Jeff.
We've worked with Pat to include a lot of his monsters that are from his books or monsters that haven't yet to appear. He's got a whole world fleshed out. It was really great working with him behind the scenes, especially if you're a fan of the book. I get to hear all this cool inside stuff. But we've created some monsters specifically designed around his monsters. One of them is a giant animatronic thing that goes about 16 feet up in the air. It's pretty impressive, looks pretty cool. We've also really upped the ante this year with our 2x4 wooden wall sets. We created like a temple that you get to walk into. You start on the outside and walk into and experience a puzzle there. That's only possible by making them out of 2x4 walls.
It was pretty cool. First off, it was very flattering when he's like, hey, would you like to do this? Although, you know, it's entirely possible, because we've been talking about this for years. I might have pitched it to him. I don't know if he said, hey, want to do a King Killer themed True Dungeon run? I might have said, hey, you know, I've got this world. You want to maybe kind of mix our professions together here? And so we've been talking about it for years. We've been talking about it seriously and working out the details this last year. It was really neat. I got to come in, I got to play. I was playing with a group of my friends, so Bast came out and everyone's like, oh, what a great Bast. And it was just a ton of fun, an absolute ton of fun.
Even though we're working with Pat this year, it is a continuation of our 4-year story arc where they're chasing this evil brain muncher character that they've been chasing for several years, and they're hoping to catch him next year. We'll see what happens. The first adventure, there's 2 this year. The first one is set in a place called the Fae, which is kind of a mystical fairy world. The party has to go through this enchanted maze to get to the center to find this gate to escape. And if they do that successfully, they'll end up in the second module, which is set in Pat's literary world, where his main characters inhabit. And there they encounter one of the characters, famous character from the book. He puts them on a little mission as they go through the village trying to reach another way. They're called waystones. And if they're able to figure out how the waystones work, they're able to escape back to their own world. And then next year, the story arc starts up again. They're still chasing the same villain.
You know, whenever you adapt into a different medium, it's never going to be the way that I think of it. You know, but that's the joy of adaptation. You know, I have kind of a geeky addiction to fan art. And so I've seen 1,000 people portray Kvothe, and they don't all look the same, but I love them all. And similarly, like, if I come here and I'm like, oh, I picture Bass with short hair, that doesn't matter. You know, it's like, oh, that's exactly what was in my head. I already have what's exactly in my head. I don't need to see that somewhere else. What I love seeing is like a loving interpretation by people who are also having a good time and excited about the material. Being able to come in and, I knew some of what was going on because I went back and forth with Jeff and we planned it out, and he's like, we're thinking of this, how's this for a challenge? But I tend to play the puzzle runs, and so, I knew what some of the characters were gonna do, I knew the shape of the story, but then I knew, and then there will be this puzzle. I didn't know what the puzzle was. I don't make these puzzles, that Jeff and his team put these together, and that's what they're really amazing at. So, hitting those puzzles, there was the one in the alchemy room, and I didn't give it enough credit initially, because I was going back and forth, and there was all these materials, and you had to correctly align them with their labels, and finally I realized that one of the items was actually magnetic, and I'm like, that is great. You know, that's something, I did not think they would go that far. That's wonderful that they would go that extra mile to not just, it's like, oh, I'm reading this and then I'm matching up a rune with another rune on a piece of paper. It's not a purely intellectual exercise. Part of the joy of doing this stuff in the real world, it's like we're solving a puzzle, we're moving things around. That's what this sort of thing has to offer that video games don't. Like existence in the real world, motion around, movement and objects interacting. It's satisfying in a way that a video game can never be.
Yeah, one of the really cool parts about this year's adventure is that we're working with Pat Rothfuss's charity called World Builders. They do a lot of great work with a lot of different charities, but for every ticket that we sell, we're donating $2. So since we sold out, we're $16,000 is what we're donating to World Builders, which will go to a lot of places like Heifer International, that kind of thing. And it's been great. We also donate some other tickets and stuff throughout the year, and it's great working with them. And it's great that all the work that we do here actually does something good in the real world.
World Builders is a charity that honestly I started accidentally on my blog one year. I was a published author. I was making grown-up money for the first time in my life, and I wrote on my blog. I said, "Hey, I'm going to donate some money to my favorite charity. Here's why I love Heifer International." And it showed me how much the geek community really loved doing good things. And all they really need is a rallying point, and geeks appreciate efficiency. And Heifer International is an extremely effective and efficient charity. And everybody just stomped out a bunch of authors and donated books for me to give away, and people donated money. And ever since then, it's gotten bigger and bigger. Last year, we raised $1 million with $1 million of matching money. I think we've done better than $6 or $7 million total now. And every year we give away like hundreds of thousands of dollars of books and games, during our end of year fundraiser. if you come in, for every $10 you donate, you get it entered into our lottery, and then we ship out, again, literally tons of stuff to the people who support World Builders. And so you make the world a better place, you come play with us geeks, you have a good time, you feel good inside, and maybe you win like some signed books too. Well, there's probably 3 different types of people. There's my people coming in and they're like, oh, I hear, there's a King Killer themed. I hope they come in and they're like, and they are like, oh, that's cool. Oh, I see. It's like, that was a great version of Bass. Like, that was a great version of Felurian. Oh, I've always been curious about the Scrael. It's fun sort of pretending to be, in the basement of the Waystone Inn. For them, I hope that they just like enjoyed kind of getting a tiny vacation along the outskirts of my world. For the people that have, who know it's themed on my world, I hope they would come through and be like, oh, this is cool. Like maybe I'll look into it a little bit. If they're curious, maybe they pick up the book, maybe not. The people that don't know it's themed, I hope they come through and they just enjoy True Dungeon for what it is. Like, it's a fun time, there's brilliant puzzles, there's great acting, there's great spectacle and drama and tension, everything you want in a story, everything you want in a game. I hope it feels complete unto itself.
I just want to say that if you're a veteran gamer and you haven't had a chance to try True Dungeon, to really immerse yourself in the event, you've got to try it out. Over the years, we've said, oh, we're a haunted house meets fantasy theme. Now we're kind of starting to say we're a breakout room type of game, but we're 12 of them, so we blow it away. So you've got to come try it out. If nothing else, come check out the Storyscape. Your life will be changed for gaming, and your tabletop games will never be the same, because you'll have lived through one of them by that point.
I invite you to come out and try True Dungeon and see if you've got what it takes to survive my adventure.